folks. We're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans of Politics. We have Brian Shapiro. He's the host of Vegas Take Back.
Vegas Take, yeah.
Vegas Take.
Yep.
But before we get to Brian, I just, we're doing today's show because Saturday is Christmas. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa, Feliz Navidad. You missed something?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think there's more.
I'm sure there's a lot more.
So, Jim, got anything?
Not really anything in particular. I just, more than anything, same thing. I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday on Saturday or whatever day you celebrate it. And I just appreciate Brian coming on.
Sure.
Again, Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening now. But right before Christmas and everything. So, appreciate you coming on.
Sure. Appreciate you having me.
Did you bring us a present?
Honestly, I forgot. That's the truth. I'm a horrible person. I did not.
No stocking stuff.
I did not bring a present, but I can always come back. That's the good thing. Yeah. But I did not, unfortunately. I asked you guys if tomorrow was Christmas Eve. I don't even know what day it is. So, my
Brian,
apologies.
Tell us about yourself.
Oh, gosh. Tell me, I'm boring. You don't want to hear
Go
about
all the way
me.
back from birth. This is going to be good.
You don't want to hear about me. Oh, geez. I mean, I've lived in Vegas for 20 years. I've been doing radio in this town for 20 years. Love Las Vegas. Love the lifestyle here. I think it's a great place to live. I have some great friends here. It's a weird radio market. It's a very weird media market. A lot of gossip in this town. I think you know what I'm talking about. I think, there's people that, as I was telling you, people will say things, oh, you don't want to work with that guy. You don't want to be with that guy. But I'm not like that. I try to treat people as they treat me. A lot of talkers in this town, but there's good people if you look hard, and I enjoy it here. And like I said, I love Las Vegas, and I went to school in Connecticut, went to college out there, and came out here in my early 20s. And here I am. I'm old now. I'm 41, still doing radio. So
when people tell me don't talk to this guy, don't talk to that guy, I ask why. Yeah. Just because they're a dick to you, that doesn't mean they're going to be a dick to me, right?
Exactly. And that's why I say I treat people the way they treat me.
Exactly.
And if somebody wrongs me in this town, I defend myself. I let people know if I don't like them. And there's reasons for that. But if I don't have a reason to not like somebody, just because somebody comes up to me and says something to me, don't work with him, or you don't want to be with that, I don't listen to stuff like that. I've always treated people the way they treat me. And when you guys asked me to do the Veterans in Politics event a couple of years ago, I was glad to do it and I'm glad to do it again.
Valentine's Day Bowl.
Yes. And I'm glad to do it again this upcoming in a few months at South Point, because, if not for our veterans, I wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to be an idiot on the radio every day. So, that's the truth of it. I was playing craps earlier today, and I'm right next to a guy that's a veteran. He's wearing the hat, and the first thing I said to him was, thank you so much for your service. Just such a nice man, and I could see what that means to him. Just for somebody that's a stranger to say, thank you for serving this country, and I try to do that every day. I do that with police officers. Yeah. I appreciate people, and I know they appreciate that, and I just try to do that every day. So I'm an emotional guy. You asked me, going back to that question, I'm a guy that wears my heart on my sleeve. Some people hate it. Some people like it. I'm an honest person. I tell it like it is. If I think you're an idiot, I'm probably going to call you an idiot. That's the way I am on and off the air. That's the way I am. Yeah. If people say stupid things, I call them stupid. Brian, don't be disrespectful. Don't be this. I'm like, well, you know what? You can be that way. But if I think someone is ignorant, I'm going to call them ignorant. That's just the way I am, and I do stupid things sometimes. But, the first person I always make fun of is myself, self-deprecation. I guess I could keep going on and on. I'm a talker, but that's basically who I am, to answer your question.
Yeah, I want to get back to when people say, stay away from that person, stay away from this person.
Sure.
When people tell me that, of all people, right, me, when people tell me that, I say I hang out with lawmakers and lawbreakers. So what's your point?
Yeah.
What's your point?
Yeah. For me, my perspective, it's some members of the media in Las Vegas that have always seen me as a threat. I don't know if it's jealousy or they just don't like my openness, and they talk, and then when I see these people in person, they don't say a word to me.
It's jealousy.
It's the cowardness of some of these people.
Cowardness.
I've gotten into it with a few people in the media in this town in person, but most of these people, they'll say things behind your back, and then when they see you in person, they just, not a word.
Keyboard warriors.
I have no problem with confrontation, as anybody that knows me well would tell you. But it's like, what are we? Are we a bunch of 12-year-old gossip girls in this town? Like, I just don't understand that. I have really good friends in this town. I'm very lucky. But there are a small group of people in this town that, they're like that. It's really weird. It's a weird media market.
So what made you get on radio?
Good question. I was maybe 10, 11 years old, and my dad said, all right, I'm going to introduce you to a couple of my radio people that I like.
So your dad was involved?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, he listened to radio. He never got into radio, but this is Don Imus, who, by the way, I always hated.
Don Imus,
yeah.
I like that
he said, I never liked him. The nappy-headed hose comment.
Why didn't you like Don?
Well, I think he's a racist.
Really?
He was.
Racist against who?
Well, I mean.
Against blacks, whites?
Well, first of all, when you go on the radio and you call a bunch of black female basketball players nappy-headed hose,
Gotcha.
You're an idiot. He's used the N-word before. Now, you can make the argument, well, Howard Stern has used the N-word, but Howard Stern has never used the type of language in a serious manner the way that Don Imus did. And Howard always would make fun of himself. But anyway, going back to your question, he introduced me to Don Imus, Howard Stern, hated Don Imus.
I hate Don Imus myself.
The first time I listened to Howard, I'm like, oh my God, I love this guy. I just love the way he interviewed people. I feel like he's the best in the world at interviewing people. For the people out there that think I liked Howard because of the nudity, I can tell you there's probably more male nudity on his show than female nudity. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my thing. Right. But anyway, I loved Howard, and I said, God, I want to be in radio. I went to my college radio station in college, and I just felt something, that I never felt before in doing it. And I feel like this is what I want to do. College radio show once a week. There was a window in the station. I had about 40 or 50 people outside the station in the student center just watching me and listening to me. I said, wow, I guess I'm good at this. There's a lot of things in life I'm really not good at, but I'd like to think I'm pretty good at radio. And I said, I think this is what I want to do. Got my first job in radio in Connecticut right out of college, then got a job out here. And
that's your major?
Yeah, communications. Yep. And that's always what I've known. It's always what I've done, and it's what I've always enjoyed most of the time. Right. Yep.
Well, how did you get on Vegas Take? And thank you for having us so many times.
Sure, absolutely. So for the first 10 years of my radio career, I was a reporter. I was a reporter for CBS Radio. I did a lot of national stories. The thing I didn't like about reporting is that you can't be opinionated. I'm a very opinionated guy. So being a reporter, at times...
You were a columnist. You were a journalist.
No, I was a radio reporter. Like, same thing as a TV reporter, only I was doing radio. Did a little bit of TV, but I mainly did radio. And 10 years into it, I said, man, I really just want to do a show. I want to be able to be opinionated and speak my mind. So I did, and I started the Vegas Take about maybe 8 years ago on my own. Developed it, did a show, and it proved to myself that, hey, I can do this.
Where did you first do the show at?
The first time I started doing the Vegas Take was at Kemp Broadcasting at 670, which I believe...
They hired you on the spot?
I was there, yep, and I kind of worked my way in there.
Gotcha.
And I think they're a political station now. But yeah, I started it there, then moved on, and I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish because KDWN, station I'm not on anymore for a couple different reasons. That's another story. But KDWN is a very conservative right-wing station. I mean, far right. Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Brian Kilmeade. There is, I hate to use the term, but a lot of bias. I mean, there's no, in my opinion, fair conversation. So I was able to do a show on there 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And the callers and the listeners we had were all sorts of different people. Democrats, Republicans, young people, old people, women, men, people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and I'm really proud of that, because I was able to get people to engage and maybe think a little bit instead of the same right-wing talk. I mean, I'm an independent. I'm left on social issues. I'm right when it comes to the border. I'm right when it comes to capital punishment. But I like to look at things on both sides. And I just think that it's not just KDWN. I think 99% of talk stations are all the same. It's all right-wing radio. Half the country is Democrat. I don't understand it. But anyway, so that's how it developed to where it is now. And
where do you lean?
Well, like I said, I'm an independent. The only Democrat I've ever voted for in my life is Joe Biden, and it wasn't because I'm a big Joe Biden fan, and I'm not now.
Did you vote for him this last time around?
Well, yeah. And the reason why I did is because it was.
Give me my gas money. I would appreciate it.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not happy with everything Joe Biden is doing. I don't think he's doing a great job. Like I said, he wasn't my first, second, or third pick. But to me, Donald Trump is a despicable human being. Why? You could say that. Well, I can give you a laundry list. First of all, he's had 25 plus women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. He's demeaned Mexicans.
Hold on.
Yep.
Has he ever been convicted?
No.
Okay.
But his ex-wife in court documents accused him of rape. It's in court documents. He paid her off. So I think there is some credibility with some of these women. But let's just say he's never sexually assaulted a woman before. Let's assume that. He still bragged about it, grabbing women by the P word. I don't want a president that talks like that. I don't want a president that says to Mexicans, these Mexicans, they're rapists and they're bad people. And I suppose some of them are good people. That's ridiculous. You being a veteran, say what you want about John McCain. Donald Trump dodged the military. And Donald Trump said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured. You can think whatever you want about John McCain, okay? And you know what? That's justified. Some of the things John McCain did, you can criticize that. That's fair. No person in this country, especially somebody that is running for office or is the president, should ever talk about a POW that way. It's a disgrace. I can go on and on about the coronavirus. He knew the coronavirus was 5 or 6 times more deadly than the flu. Yet he told the American people, and he compared it to the flu. He mocked people for wearing masks. He said, COVID, COVID, COVID. Why do people always want to talk about COVID? We could attack Joe Biden for a lot of his policies, but one thing I will give...
And some of Joe Biden's policies were locking up a lot of blacks when he was a U.S. senator.
Well, there's
a lot of his policies were locking blacks up. The search and seizure and the frisk and all that stuff that he did, that was aimed to black Americans.
We could definitely criticize Joe Biden, but you asked me about why I think Donald Trump is a despicable human being. Sure. I could go on and on and on. He's had a silver spoon, you know where, since he was, 6 years old. He got a $500 million company from his dad. He's had yes men around him his whole life. Having unprotected sex with a porn star after your wife has a child. Kids with three different women. He's just a horrible guy. Now, that's the way I vote. I respect if people. That's the way I vote. I don't want a horrible human being in office.
All right, so you did all the cons on President Trump or former President.
Well,
Trump.
I did some. I could do a lot more.
let me hear some of the cons on Joe Biden. Yeah.
Well, first of all, Joe Biden's old, and I believe that, and so is Donald Trump, by the way. But I think that we should have presidents in office that are younger, that are not as fragile. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying he has Alzheimer's, like people that are not doctors like to say, but he's old. Okay, I want people in office that are younger, Republican or Democrat. That's number one. I believe a lot of politicians, to an extent, are corrupt. Certainly Donald Trump. There's no question that Joe Biden has taken advantage of his power over the years. He's a politician.
He's never had a civilian job in his whole life.
Yeah, I understand that.
The founding fathers said that you're supposed to go and do your time and leave. He did his time and don't know how to leave.
There's no question he's
45 years of being on taxpayers' dollars.
There's no question he's not a perfect person. And like I said, not my first, second, or third choice, and I have plenty of criticism for him. But I will say this, though. I believe Joe Biden does have empathy for people. That's important to me. Now, that might not be important to some people. When he spoke to George Floyd family, when he speaks to veterans, I do believe that he does care about people. When he talks about coronavirus, I don't think he wants everyone to have to wear a mask, but I do believe that he does care about people. And when he talks about his son, Beau, who also served honorably and recently sadly died of brain cancer, it's a sad story. You know, his wife and daughter that died in that car accident, that does resonate with me when he talks about death.
Cons on Joe Biden, by the way.
Well, you're talking to me about the thing. That's what I like about him as a person. Don't like some of his policies.
Like which one?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I could certainly start by talking about this new virus that just came about. He wasn't prepared for it, and his excuse is, well, the world wasn't prepared for it. They weren't ready for this, and I think that's a big issue. We could talk about inflation. I think a lot of the gas prices are not on him. When you talk to economists around the world, most of them will tell you when you're out of a pandemic and people are trying to get back to work, gas prices are going to go up. Your eggs are going to go back up. But like I said, he's not my first, second, or third choice. He's just, to me, the better choice than Donald Trump. Not a perfect guy. Don't care about his son, Hunter. Everybody wants to talk about Hunter.
Did Donald Trump get the unemployment to
I'm glad you mentioned that. Because
and stopping all the illegals from coming across the border.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Joe
and
Biden
went after China, started holding their feet to the fire.
Joe Biden just had the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Now, people don't want to talk about that don't
Really?
like Joe Biden.
Have you seen
Look it up. The lowest unemployment number in 50 years. Here's what I think happened, okay? Barack Obama took over a mess. He put the economy in the right direction. Again, not a perfect president. I think he's a decent guy, not a perfect president. Obama created a lot of jobs the final 4 years of his presidency. Donald Trump did a good job in not screwing that up. He kept the momentum going. It's true. He kept the momentum going. Obviously, the coronavirus effed up a lot of things in this country, that being one of them, of course. But when you look at the unemployment numbers, and you can Google it, folks, if you don't believe me, we just recently had the lowest unemployment numbers in 50 years. Do I give all the credit to Joe Biden for that? No. But I give him a little. That's not my criticism of Trump, and it's not my criticism of Biden unemployment numbers. But, we got to get through this virus. It's a horrible thing. I mean, I'm sure you guys all know people that sadly have lost their lives. I mean, I almost lost my life a year ago. I was in the ICU for 2 weeks. I don't understand, and this is my biggest criticism of Trump, and this is my biggest criticism of people on the alt-right, why and there's some people on the left that have politicized it as well. Coronavirus. This is something that we should have come together as a country and fought together. We bicker. There are people on the left, on the far left. I don't think if we all have been vaccinated, I don't think we should have to wear a mask. If we're vaccinated, I think there are people on the left that take it too far. Then there are people on the right, the anti-maskers. People
constitutional.
I think when it affects other people, I don't think it involves the Constitution. When we're talking about people's health at stake here and risk, for example,
putting a foreign substance into your body that hasn't had any time to check out for the side effects. No years has gone by to check. I give you a perfect example. When I was in the Gulf War, we took shots and pills for blister and nerve agent. It wasn't FDA approved. Matter of fact, we had to sign a confidentiality saying that we wouldn't talk about it. It wasn't in our service medical record book. And then 11, 12 years later, we start developing all these side effects called Gulf War syndrome. And I'm a perfect example from that. So there hasn't been any time, any years to go by to say that there's no side effects.
Well, the first thing I would say to that is we're in a global pandemic where over 800,000 people in this country have died. That's number one. Number two, you don't know everything.
About 12 years from now, you
don't
more from the side
do you know
effects,
when you
if there's any side effects?
When you eat a Butterfinger, do you know what's going into your body? When you go out and have a burger, do you know what's in your body?
Yeah,
I would imagine
it's all FDA approved.
Well, you don't know everything some is approved as well. Some of these vaccines
but the government's also not telling you that it's safe.
Half the world has taken it though. You don't think it's safe? Half the world has taken the vaccine.
Well,
you really think it's not safe?
Well, first off, let's back up. It's not a vaccine.
What do you mean?
It's just like the flu shot. You have to get it every year. You have to get booster shots. A vaccine would be something like
mumps, measles, rubella, chickenpox,
polio.
Well, here's what I'll tell you.
You take one shot and you're covered for life.
Well, that's not what these vaccinations are. It's not one shot covered for life.
Money grab.
Well, all I can tell you is this. Half the world has taken it. Seems pretty safe to me. I don't want to go through what I went through a year ago. This is, again, you're asking me for my opinion. This is my opinion. I think it's foolish if people don't get vaccinated unless you get from your doctor or you have. I think it's foolish. Quite frankly, I also think it's selfish. There's too many people that are dying every day. My friend works in the ICU in Las Vegas. He's an infectious disease doctor. 80% of the people that are in there are unvaccinated. 90% of the people that are in there, Mountain View I'm talking about, that are dying are unvaccinated. I don't want you to die. I don't want you to get sick. I don't want you even if you're asymptomatic and you're fine,
Yeah.
I want to think about other people. I don't want them to get sick. I want to all be over this, guys. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be working again. The reason why we're still wearing masks right now, and the reason why people are dying at the rate they are, is unvaccinated. Now, I understand the vaccination doesn't necessarily protect you from not getting it or giving it to others, but it does protect you, for the most part, from not being hospitalized and dying. For that reason and that reason alone, I think people should be vaccinated. It's not about control or people putting chips into your arms. And I'm not saying you think that, but there are some wackadoodles out there that think that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate what you brought up as far as the alt-right and the alt-left.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you guys are alt-right.
But
I'm saying on both sides, we got to stop with the extremes.
To be honest, we lean right of center.
Which is fine.
We're
Yeah.
we're not the extreme, like years ago there was that senator in North Carolina.
You're not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah. I mean,
And I'm not Ocasio-Cortez, although I do like her very much. She's very nice to look at.
You're definitely not her. My chair would have been a little close.
I bet it would have. And I wouldn't blame you for that, by the way.
Summed Steve up. Very nice to
For the
look
record, I do have a cardboard cutout of
That
Ocasio-Cortez.
won't work for us.
Yeah.
We like the flesh.
Fair enough. But yeah, man, I do believe it's a vaccine. Here's what I'll tell you. I try to listen to the experts. Now, I know a lot of people on the right want to attack Dr. Fauci. For the life of me, I really don't understand it.
How much he's making doing all that?
Well, I know that he's been doing this for decades, and I know he has more experience with infectious disease than I have in my pinky. Doesn't mean he's always right. He certainly likes the cameras. He has his faults. I try to listen to actual real experts. Now, of the hundreds of thousands of doctors and infectious disease experts in this country, you'll find a few demon sperm doctors, as I like to call them, who are morons, who make their appearances on OAN or Newsmax to try to sell a book and say foolish, stupid things that can hurt or harm people. But for the most part, 99% of doctors and infectious disease experts across the country all say the same thing. Get the vaccine. It's safe. Wear a mask. That's how we're going to get through this thing. So I try to listen to them. I don't listen to political people. Sure, I'll listen to my friends and we'll have good conversations like we're having right now. Yeah. But in the end, I listen to the experts, not TV people, not radio people like me. I'm not saying listen to me. Right. Listen to the experts. Listen to real experts, not some random guy or Rand Paul who's an eye doctor who thinks that he's an infectious disease expert, because he's not. When Rand Paul has a conversation with Dr. Fauci, I want to vomit. He's an eye doctor. He has no idea what he's talking about. It's like, come on, man. I mean,
but he had COVID.
So did I. But I wouldn't have an argument with Dr. Fauci thinking that I know more than him, because I'm not a doctor. Neither is Rand Paul. He's an eye doctor. Well, he's going to put droplets in my eyes. He's not an infectious disease expert.
That's where people get confused, because as soon as they say Dr. Paul,
right.
They just assume he's a doctor of everything.
I had a conversation with a guy the other day, and he's like, my neighbor, he's a doctor, and he told me that, this virus is a hoax. And I'm like, oh, God, we got another one of these idiots, right? So I'm like, what is your doctor? Oh, my doctor, he's a dentist. I'm like, well, that's good. A guy that fills your cavities. Listen to him when it comes to COVID. That's very intelligent. Yeah, we just need to be logical. That's all. I mean, that's all, Yeah,
I mean, my take on it, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to listen to both sides.
Sure.
And specifically, come on, because Steve and I lean right of center. We're not extremists, but we lean right of center. And based on what you said, you kind of lean left of center.
When it comes to social issues, yes.
Yeah. I think you fall in the mainstream. Right?
I don't like Ilhan Omar. There's plenty of Democrats. I don't like Chuck Schumer. I don't like Nancy Pelosi. These people need to get out of office. I don't like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes any more than the Ilhan Omars. So I try to be fair. And criticizing Joe Biden for Afghanistan is very fair. He's not great with the media, although he's not insulting the media like Donald Trump would do for anybody that disagreed with him. But I have my criticism for both sides. I look at Republicans and Democrats. It's almost like you're a Lakers fan and a Celtics fan. It's like you have a bunch of children who care more about their party than the country. I'm going to do what's best for my party so I can remain in power, rather than doing what's best for the country. And until that attitude changes and we have more moderate people in the middle, things are never going to get done.
Do talk about that exiting from Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that?
I think most Republicans and Democrats agree, and Donald Trump agreed. That was the right thing to do to get out. It was the execution of it that was horrendous. Now, in the long run, lives are going to be saved. Why? Because we're out of that godforsaken country, right? We're out of there. But the execution was terrible. The troops obviously needed to remain in place until we got the Americans out. That is obvious. That was a royal screw up. There's no question about it, and there's no defending that. But, and I say but, a lot of Trump supporters will go, oh, Trump would have done things differently. No, he wasn't. He wanted to get the troops out months earlier. He also, people forget about this, he released thousands of terrorists, okay? Now, it was great that no Americans were harmed.
He released thousands of terrorists. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, look it up. He actually had an agreement with the Taliban. He released thousands of Taliban terrorists. And in return...
Dead or alive?
Alive. Alive.
Yeah.
And people don't know this. And it's like, okay, you want to criticize Joe Biden. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. The execution of it was terrible. But our former President Trump released thousands of Taliban terrorists. Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, it goes back to what I always say. Be fair. Attack both sides. Trump had the right idea. Joe Biden had the right idea. Both of them. The execution was preposterous and embarrassing. And I feel horrible for those troops that lost their lives, their families. It's terrible. You guys being veterans, it hits home. It's horrible.
I want to talk about troops losing their lives in Afghanistan, especially the last 13 that lost their lives. Remember when we were on your show, me and Robert Madoff was on your show? A couple minutes after we got off your show, one of your listeners phoned me, because I gave out my phone number.
Yeah.
Phoned me and said that you were dismissing the 13.
Well, that's utter
They
stupidity.
they phrased it for me, or he phrased it. This one guy, he said that your co-host said, "Newsflash, we just lost 13 American soldiers in Afghanistan," and then you dismissed it, and then you moved on to something else.
So,
you didn't even.
So with all due respect,
sure, that's what they were saying.
So
not me saying
understood.
it. Okay.
So with all due respect to your friend or somebody
No,
that's...
I didn't even know.
Yeah, okay.
It was one of your listeners.
So that person is probably a listener who has obviously no understanding of how radio works. I don't talk about a subject unless I have some information. And when my co-host out of nowhere says something and I have no information in front of me...
So this was the first time you were here.
Right. If I don't know that it's true and I don't have facts or any information, I'm not going to spend time to talk about it. Now, what this person probably didn't tell you is I did talk about the troops that had lost their lives for weeks after that. Why? Because I had the information in front of me. Yeah. So that's probably somebody who doesn't like some of my views. I like to call them right-wing buffoons, not you, who is going to try to, attack my credibility with a statement like that, without the context, of the situation. Obviously, things are very fluid.
I get it too.
Yeah. Like the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, right? I mean, everything was so fluid, but we covered that live. Right. But I had the information in front of me.
Right.
The Tiger Woods crash, I had that information in front of me, and then I called my guy from TMZ. He came on, who broke the story. So yeah, when I'm breaking stuff, I just want to have a little bit of information. I didn't have anything in front of me. So yeah, obviously that was a horrible thing, and I talked about it for a long time. And obviously, any brave man and woman or in uniform that loses their life, paying the ultimate sacrifice for this country they're heroes, dead or alive. They're all heroes. You guys are heroes. I say that all the time. I say it to people every day, and it's one of the most honorable things you could do, and heroic things you could do is serve this country and risk your life for this country. And I'll always be grateful to everybody. And I say that every day. I really do.
So what's next for Brian?
What's next for Brian? Yeah. So, as I said before, I've created the highest rated show in town. And
I thought we were the highest rated show.
You guys do a good job.
What happened? we got Shapiro beating us.
You guys do a good job. Excuse me. So, one announcement I will make is that I'm teaming up with two very good friends of mine. One guy who played in the NBA for 9 years. He's a UNLV veteran, Marcus Banks. Going to be doing a podcast with him and one of my good friends who just retired from boxing, Showtime Sean Porter. They both live in Las Vegas. They're extremely intelligent people, great guys. And, life retiring now after basketball and boxing. And we're going to talk about hard-hitting issues. We're going to start that up next month. That's going to be fun. And I'm in contract negotiations with other stations in Vegas right now, and I'm hoping to make an announcement and hoping to be back on the air within a few weeks. So some good things, exciting things around the corner, so I can still be an idiot on the radio every day. That's the key for me. It's my way of getting therapy, is expressing myself on the radio every day. It's like therapy for me.
That's how I look at politics. I get all my anger out by being
It's good, right?
by being a butthead.
You don't look like a guy that I would want you. I don't think I'd want him to be angry at me.
People that shouldn't be in politics.
I think I've only made him really super angry once, and I never want to see that again.
Which time was that?
Oh, I'm not going to say.
He's not gonna say. I don't remember.
He does not look like. He looks like the guy that'll walk into a bar and like, okay, I better not mess with that guy because you're a big dude.
Hey, I walk into gay bars and nobody messes
Well,
with
that's
me.
your personal business. That's okay. That's
Talking about the time at Stoney's, and Bob Ruckman came up and started yelling at you.
Oh, yeah, I was going to drop the guy.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, people look at me, they're like, well, look at this dude. He's like 90 pounds soaking wet.
So basically, it was two Republicans going to fight each other.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
One
Oh
was
boy.
going to lose badly.
If I had to pick two Republicans that would want to fight each other, gosh, I don't know. That'd be a tough one.
Yeah.
That'd be a tough one.
So it's interesting hearing you talk and answering some of Steve's questions because doing some research on you, everybody's like, oh, yeah, I know Brian, super liberal. So they paint you as the ultra left.
Yeah. And anyone who says that again, I hate to use the term ignorant, but they just don't know what they're talking about. I'll say it again. The only Democrat I've ever voted for in my life is Joe Biden. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Barack Obama because I would have been totally okay with Mitt Romney winning. I think they're both decent men.
Did you vote or did you just hit none of the
I did
above?
not because I would have been okay with either of them winning. I was not okay with Hillary Clinton. Don't like her now. Didn't like her then. Yeah. Looking back on things, I hate to say it, I probably should have voted for Hillary. But I didn't vote for Trump or Hillary because I didn't like either of them. Right. As far as liberal, I mean, I'm for capital punishment. George W. Bush was criticized for that in Texas. I'm all for it. I was all for the electric chair. I'm for border security. Find me a liberal that hates Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I'm for abortion as long as it's done legally. I do think that there should be a pathway to citizenship, but I'm for border security. So I think people that use the term, that Brian, he's a liberal. Why? Because I don't like Donald Trump? Because I call Donald Trump Cheeto Jesus?
Cheeto
yeah,
Jesus.
That's my nickname for him, Cheeto Jesus.
Well,
Yeah.
why'd you pick that one?
Because his skin is like Cheeto, and people looked up to him like he's Jesus Christ. So, I mock Donald Trump and his manly physique and his stupidity and the things that he says. However, I've never called him stupid. Sometimes he says stupid things. I don't think Donald Trump's a stupid guy. I think he's pretty smart, actually. He knows how to manipulate people. He's been doing it his whole life. Never called him stupid. But yeah, as far as the liberal stuff, I mean, if you're a big Donald Trump fanboy and you hear me on the radio, that's probably your go-to. Doesn't matter whether I'm saying factual things or not, which I'd like to think I do every day. The things, I don't make stuff up. I have my opinions. People can disagree, but no, I'm not a liberal. I'm a registered independent.
My brother unfriended me because he said that I was a Donald Trump fan. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing to do.
Well, that's kind of stupid. I have friends that are Trump supporters. I wouldn't block them. The people that I have blocked or stopped talking to in my life are people that are just say racist things. I have people call into the radio show that'll start off a conversation saying white lives matter when we're talking about issues facing the black community. I talk to people out there that make homophobic comments or say things about the virus that are just so blatantly false. Those are the people I block. I have very intelligent friends of mine that are Trump supporters that I have really good, reasonable conversations with, a good amount of them. And I like this policy, I like that policy. Here's why. But Donald Trump's a piece of crap. But here's why I voted for him. I respect those people because they have their reasons, and some of his policies, quite frankly, did work.
So out of Trump and Hillary, which one would you pick?
Hillary.
Really?
Yep, I can say that now. Don't like Hillary. Lesser of two evils. I also think our president should be a role model for people. Again, Joe Biden isn't perfect, but I'll give you an example. We know that Joe Biden's had this stuttering problem his whole life, right? Kids sent him a video. He visited the kid. He spoke to the kid. He's invited him to the White House. That's cool, man. Donald Trump doesn't do stuff like that. Kyle Rittenhouse, he did it for Kyle Rittenhouse, who's not a hero in my opinion. I guess that's a whole other book of worms that we could open up. But I don't think Hillary is like necessarily that role model, but I don't think she would also embarrass the country. And I do believe there were a lot of, whether our eggs are cheaper or gas are cheaper, Donald Trump to me is an embarrassment to the country. Writing love letters to Kim Jong-il, defending Vladimir Putin on a world stage, taking his word over our own CIA. I don't believe Hillary Clinton would do that. Is she corrupt? Yes. Yes, she's corrupt. But if you're asking me between the two of them, I don't want either of them. But if I had to choose right now, I would choose Hillary. And if people want to call me a liberal for that, I guess they could, but I'm not. Yeah.
Brian, thank you for saying that, because I just want to ask your opinion, since this is a podcast, so you can give your opinion.
Yep.
How do we get past that point in this country, though, where it's the lesser of two evils?
Well, I think that's a good question. We need younger people that are fair-minded people, that are not extreme, that can work on the other side of the aisle. I believe, when you're in office and there's no time constraints, you could be there forever. Doesn't matter how old you are. We got to change those laws in effect. I think it's too easy for some people to get into office and stay there. I don't know how some of these people get into office to begin with.
So you said term limits for U.S. Senate and Congress.
For everybody. Yes, absolutely.
Federal judges too?
Absolutely.
How about Supreme Court?
Yes. What if somebody has a mental breakdown and they're on the Supreme Court? What if somebody is suffering from alcohol or drug addiction? I don't know. What if somebody has so many personal issues that they're doing, they can't do their job right? Absolutely, 100%.
How about a psychological evaluation for judges?
100%. I'm on board with that. Absolutely. And maybe there are probably a lot of people on the left that would disagree with me on that, but absolutely. I think that should be for most jobs when you have a lot of power. Not even politics. Your mind changes. Things happen in your life, which you're
yearly psychological evaluation.
Yes, I know for me it has. We're all human beings. We're all not perfect, right? Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's where I start.
Yeah.
That's where I start. And again, we need to just stop with the extremists, on both sides of the aisle.
So you have candidates that show up on your program, right?
Oh, of course.
What do you look for?
What do I look for in a candidate? Something that's very difficult to find, but I would say honesty. Don't say things. I know, it's hard. Don't say things just because you want to remain in power. I'm forgetting his name right. Dan Crenshaw. Okay, let me give you an example. Obviously, Dan Crenshaw is a hero. Okay, served this country honorably. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. However, I know people that know him very well. He is afraid, and he's said this to some very close friends of mine that are very close to him. He's afraid to speak out against Donald Trump when it comes to certain things because he doesn't want to lose his base. Here's a man who risked everything. He risked his life. He's a hero, just like you guys. Risked his life. But he wants to remain in power, doesn't want to speak up. I have a problem with that. I have so much respect for Dan Crenshaw, but we need people that are willing to, and again, I cannot stand Liz Cheney, okay? I don't like a lot of her policies. I disagree with her on just about everything. However, I have a lot of respect for her, even though I disagree with her on almost every policy, because she was willing and is still willing to call out the big lie, which it is. Donald Trump did not win the election. She's willing to call out the lies, and she's willing to get down to the truth of what happened on January 6th.
You don't think Donald Trump won the election?
It's not about thinking. It's about evidence.
When he was campaigning, and when he did leave his basement, when he was campaigning, you get a dozen or 2 dozen out there that was rallying for him. When Trump was campaigning, it was thousands and thousands of people.
I think you have to remember that the thousands of people that were going to his campaign rallies during coronavirus were anti-vaccine and anti-coronavirus. He held rallies in Las Vegas during the coronavirus that were super spreaders. I think a big portion of that. I mean, you look at if we're not in a pandemic, I think certainly the crowds for Biden would have been bigger.
If you're a betting man and you saw that every time Biden went out, he had a dozen or so folks, and every time Trump went out, he had thousands. Who would you place your bet on to win the presidential election?
Well, I did place bets actually on the election. I did. Yeah. All my bets were on
Joe.
all my bets were on Joe Biden because of coronavirus. I believe if not for coronavirus, Trump probably would have won re-election. But I didn't base it on how big of a crowd was, a couple thousand people. I based it on
several thousand.
Well, maybe even several thousand, but I based it on the majority of the people in this country that were just fed up. They were fed up with his narcissism. He did it to himself, quite frankly, Steve. I'll be honest with you. He did it to him. If he just stayed off of Twitter, okay, and if he stopped attacking women on looks and Mexicans, and if he just stuck to policy, there is no question.
You said take personality out of it.
Well, yeah, or being a dickhead. I'm sorry, forgive me, but just being a jerk. If he just stayed off of Twitter and just stopped attacking people and just did his job, there is no question he would still be the president. He did it to himself. So yeah, I mean, I voted for Joe Biden, and I believe that, as far as the big lie goes, there was no evidence to support the fact that there was not fraud. Hear what I'm saying here. Widespread voter fraud that would have changed the outcome of the election. There's going to be fraud in every election. Trump's attorneys had his chance. They had their chances. They were 0-61 in the courts. There have been all these recounts. In fact, they found more votes for Joe Biden in the recount, which is an embarrassment. So let me ask you guys a question now. You guys are asking me all these questions. Since we're talking about that, why is it before the 2016 election, months before he was running against Hillary, he talked about voter fraud, remember? He said the elections were rigged. Why is it right after he won, all that talk went away? For 3 years, you didn't hear Donald Trump talk about, oh boy, the elections are rigged. He waited until the 2020 election. I can give you my answer, because it's a lie. Because people want to make you out to believe that it's only Democrats that can cheat in an election, which is not true, of course. But it's true, guys, what I'm saying. 4 months before 2016, he talked about voter fraud because he was trying to gear you up in case he loses. This was a fraud. And then when he won, that night, Hillary conceded. And all the voter fraud talk went away. So I ask you guys, why? Why did it go away? Why?
Because there were no mail-in ballots like how there was in the last election.
Well, there were mail-in ballots, but not
they didn't find thousands and thousands of ballots after they sent everybody home.
What do you mean found ballots?
Well, it was on the news that they sent away all the staffers, and they sent away all the people that were watching, all the observers. And then the next morning, they found thousands of ballots in suitcases. Didn't you?
Who
it was
said
on the news. I don't remember
what
exactly
news?
What channel it was on. If it was
no,
CNN,
I did not hear that.
NBC or Fox. But
my opinion on that is if there was any validity to that.
He was winning by hundreds of thousands of votes, and then the next morning he's losing.
Well, because they didn't have enough people to count all the votes.
Usually, when, for example, the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, we knew that night, right?
Well, sure.
Yeah. This one,
they were able to count all the votes.
This one, we didn't find out until what?
Right. Well, they didn't have the
next day,
right.
Later on that afternoon, 3 days later,
Well, they didn't have the manpower put together to be able to count up all the votes in that night.
Do you believe in mail-in ballots? Because I don't.
During a global pandemic, absolutely. What I don't want during a pandemic is everybody. Here's what I want, and this is a criticism to some people on the alt-right. I want it to be as easy as possible for people in this country to vote. Now, I don't agree with Bernie Sanders. I don't think felons should have the opportunity to vote. I don't.
Unless they're pardoned and they're reinstated.
Correct. I have no problem. Correct. Absolutely.
Or not dead.
Correct. But I want to make it easy for people to vote. Now, during a global pandemic, we had a very interesting and sad situation, but I don't want people out there, when they don't have to. I want to make it as easy as possible on them. And like I said before, in this country, you have an opportunity to challenge. Trump's attorneys had that opportunity. They were 0-61. And here's something else that's so interesting about that. People will say, oh, a bunch of Democrat judges. You know a lot about judges, and you know that's not true. Some of these were Trump-appointed Republican judges.
And a lot of these judges are rhino anyways.
Perhaps, but rhino or not, they were 0-61. If there was a smoking gun, and this could be the biggest farce since maybe the JFK assassination, you would think we would see some real evidence out there. So the idea that there were thousands of people that, were scamming the Republicans and we haven't seen one shred of actual real widespread voter fraud. No, I mean, the reality of the situation is I think Donald Trump, it comes down to very simple put. He's a sore loser. And here's something else I'll talk about.
He doesn't like losing anyways.
No, it's okay not to like.
Who does
Right.
like losing?
Nobody.
I mean,
hate to
whether
lose.
they're Democrat or Republican, campaigns
Yeah.
are tough. These people work their asses off
But
to
let me
try
ask
to get
you guys
We're
money.
talking about the most powerful seat in the world, actually.
Sure, but we're also talking about the most powerful country in the world and democracy, which he has attacked. When he asked for all these campaign contributions, I think upwards of $300 million to fight this voter fraud. Well, how did that work out? He spent maybe $4 or $5 million of that $300 million in contributions that he scammed from the American people. And I say scammed because I think he was allowed to keep 80% of that money for his own personal funds.
Really?
That's a scam artist. Trump is not stupid. I can tell you why he did this. Yes, a little bit of his ego and narcissism. He did it for money. He got hundreds of millions of dollars of campaign contributions, claiming he was going to use that to fight the voter fraud. But he didn't. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but a lot of these Trump supporters were absolutely scammed. The proof is in the pudding. He has that money now. It's his personal money. He could use it so Melania Trump could get, her next set of breast implants. Sorry, horrible joke, but I'm being honest with you. He can use that money for anything he wants. Don't you guys have a problem with that as Trump supporters? Hundreds of millions of dollars he took from people, hardworking Americans that believed him. Now that's their fault, but they believed him. He didn't use that money to fight voter fraud. He used it for himself. Doesn't that bother you? That would bother me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it bothers me, but the reason why I supported Trump was because of policy.
Mm-hmm.
I really, truly believe in Trump's policies.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were good. And Trump has never been some hardcore right-wing
He's a Democrat.
conservative.
He's a Democrat. I mean, he is.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. For his whole life, he was a
So,
Democrat.
you know,
To be honest,
Yeah.
I caucused for Donald Trump when he first ran.
Mm-hmm.
When you had the whole slew of Republicans going up against him, the Bush, Jeb Bush.
What do you guys think about
and
the
all
Bushes?
those other senators?
I'm curious.
I think that, somebody said to me one time, don't we have 339 million Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to keep putting a Bush and a Clinton in office? Don't we have any other name we could put in office?
Yeah.
And then you come up with Biden, and you come up with Trump. I mean, these are
It
all...
goes back to what I said. We need younger, fresher people in office that are, I think we're getting more of that, but I don't want to see the Ilhan Omar, Matt Gaetzes of the world because I think they're morons. Again, extremists. Matt Gaetz is an idiot. Another guy who, lived off the coattails of his dad with all of his DUIs. He's a clown.
Who's this?
Matt Gaetz, Republican congressman, and Ilhan Omar. I don't think she's accomplished much of anything. I appreciate the fact that she came here and she made something of herself, but she's made some anti-Semitic remarks, again, extremist in my view. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't call her a jihad, and I wouldn't make horrible remarks like Lauren Boebert made about her. But I think we need younger people in office that are fair.
Look at Edward Kennedy when he drove that vehicle, it was in Connecticut, and killed that lady, and didn't even go back in the ocean to try to get her out. And he became U.S. senator.
Scumbag.
I mean, really?
Murderer, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Was it a drunk driving crash? Yeah, but he's a scumbag. Again, when I know, again, a lot of Republicans don't like hearing this word white privilege. That was an example of white privilege. If that was a black man, that last name wasn't Kennedy, think that would have gone down the same way? Of course not. So we all have to be reasonable.
Especially during those times.
Of course. So I think when people say those types
She
of
has to
terms,
be a white woman, though.
yeah,
That would make it even worse.
perhaps. But I mean, there's so many things in this country that we're so divided on, and it's unfortunate.
I know that politicians are not perfect, but
people aren't perfect.
I always try to pick the best of the two evils.
Mm-hmm.
And in politics, they always say, go with the devil that you know than the devil that you don't.
Right.
Because you don't know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
At least with the devil, you know exactly what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. When Trump won in 2016, I was really rooting for him. I actually thought that the rhetoric would stop. I thought that he would. I remember when when Obama invited him in the White House. By the way, he never invited Joe Biden in there because he's a disgraceful human being. But anyway, going back. Trump seemed like he was like that calm demeanor guy. He appreciated the fact that Obama invited him in. They had a conversation. I'm like, good. That's the Donald Trump that I wanted to see. Right. Not the reality TV star jerk, okay? But I just wanted to see that Donald Trump. And I would have voted for him in 2020 if he remained on point with that. You remember when Obama invited him up?
He wanted to be humble.
I just wanted him to be a decent human being. I don't think he's capable of being a decent human being.
But you wanted, based on, I can guarantee Obama didn't necessarily want to invite Trump.
Probably not. But he did the right thing.
But he did the right thing.
Right.
You know why? Because he's a statesman. And that's what you do when you're a statesman.
I think it's integrity, and people can have their criticisms of Obama, but that was the right thing to do.
Well, in Trump's defense, he didn't invite him because he felt the election was stolen, and there was a lot of animosity because of that.
Even with animosity, for whatever reason, I think when you're the president of the United States, your number one priority should be the country.
Bring the country together.
Exactly. And I think you're right, they have their issues, but I think if he put his own personal stuff, because that's the problem with Donald Trump. He only thinks about himself. That's what I try to tell people. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about me. He cares about himself. He doesn't even care about some people in his own family. So if he just invited Biden to the White House, let them have their private conversation, have a nice conversation like Obama and Trump did with the press, I think that would have helped tone down things a little bit. I think that would have been good for the country.
Do you think the insurrection is his fault?
Partially, and I'll tell you why. Let me ask you a question. I'll answer that by asking you a question. If Donald Trump, for several months before the insurrection, did not say that Joe Biden stole the election and that the Democrats cheated, do you think the insurrection on January 6th happens?
I would say not.
Right. Okay, so there's your answer. He instigated. You had Rudy Giuliani who said, fight by combat. I think those are the words he used. Don Jr. used similar words. Donald Trump said, I'm going to go down with you. Of course, he didn't do that because he's a coward. It took him, 5 or 6 hours to make a statement? 5 or 6 hours. And now we're learning in text messages from the Sean Hannitys of the world, the Laura Ingrams of the world, and many of the Republicans that were there, begging for him to say something, begging for him to put out a video that said, guys, you got to go. So what does he do? 5 hours pass before he does anything. And his statement, even though he said, okay, go home, he said, we love you. Now, if you guys being veterans, doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat, when you see police officers being beaten, it's disgusting. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It could be a Black Lives Matter protest. We all agree. Or it could be January 6th. He said, we love you. We love you. Do we love those people? Do we love people that beat police officers? Because that's what some of those people were doing with their Confederate flags. They were beating police officers. I think 70 or 80 officers had to be sent to the hospital. People died that day. A woman was trampled. A woman was shot. Officer Sitnik, a lot of people say, oh, that had nothing to do with the insurrection. Give me a break. The stress that was put on his body, he was a healthy guy. He was sprayed with the bear spray. He died the next day. You can't tell me that had nothing to do with it. The point being, it was a disgrace for this country. Donald Trump never took any responsibility for it. He probably never will. And now he's holding a press conference on January 6th. How do you think that's going to go?
I know you mentioned some Democratic talk show hosts like the Sterns and the other guy that I don't want to talk
Stern
about.
is a Democratic talk show host? He leans left.
Seems like.
He doesn't really do a lot of politics, though.
But what about any Republican talk show hosts?
What about him?
Like Wayne Allen Root.
Oh, Jesus. Don't get me started with him. Wayne Allen Kook? Is that who you're talking about?
Wayne Allen Root. What do you say about him?
In my personal opinion, Wayne Allen Root is a fraud.
Why do you say that?
Well, for starters, he came on my radio show.
Did he?
Hours later, he was fired from the Review Journal. Where do I even start with him? He said that a Muslim caused the October 1 shooting here. Never apologized for that statement. Blamed a police officer.
It was a white man that caused the October 1 shooting.
Wayne Allen Root claimed he had a cure for the coronavirus. Okay, he put it up on Twitter. Then he got a cease and desist letter telling him to knock it off. Wayne Allen Root has said Obama had a gay relationship. There are people out there that have zero credibility, and that's why I called him Wayne Allen Kook. He has zero credibility. I did a 25-minute interview with him. Tell you how. I went on the air and I called him a scumbag. Wow. And the reason why I did that is because anybody that would claim they have a cure for the coronavirus, when people are in such hell, he tweets, cures coronavirus about, I don't know, some pill that he was pushing. Anybody who does something like that is despicable. So I called him a scumbag. He calls one of my bosses and says, I want an apology or I'm going to sue Brian Shapiro. So I said, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll apologize to you. Why don't you come on my show and I'll apologize? He comes on. I had a list of all the despicable things he said that, proves that he has zero credibility. I have zero respect for him. And I think he says dangerous things on the air to this very day. He says things about the vaccines that are not true, claiming that all these people are dying from getting the vaccines with no real evidence to back up opinions. I just think it's okay to disagree, and it's okay to have good political debates like we're having right now. And then there's people like him that, to me, in my personal opinion, are just a complete disgrace with no credibility. Sorry. I mean, that's one guy that I have nothing nice to say about. I think he's a fraud. I know he is.
Well, I think even if it's a podcast and you're just giving opinion, you should still do if you're going to say stuff like that, you have a pill to cure COVID.
Or a Muslim was the October 1 shit.
Right,
and he comes on my show.
If you're going to say stuff like that, though, you have to have done your research and be able to prove that it's actually true before you just say it, or at least say, in my opinion.
I think it's okay to have opinions, but when you're talking about people's lives, and you put out misinformation to fill a political need for people to hear, it's very, very dangerous. When he holds what he claims to be some sort of, I don't think it was an anti-mask rally, but it was like an anti-shutdown rally or something, and he claimed he had like 50,000 people on the strip or something. Blatant lies. And then the Las Vegas Police Department said they had nothing to do with this rally. They wanted no part of it. They put out a statement. I mean, it's just fraud. There are certain people where it's like they just have no credibility. And he's one of them. It's okay to disagree with people. And there are some hosts that are on the right that I think are very talented people that I can say, I don't agree with a lot of their beliefs, but I can understand why people like them. He ain't one of them. I just have, zero respect for that.
How about Kevin? What's his name?
Kevin Wall?
Kevin Wall.
Yeah, Kevin's a really nice guy. Very different host. He's a nice guy. I'd probably say that he's extremely biased in one direction. Doesn't really have any Democrats that he interviews. Same right-wing talking points, same assemblyman that he has on all the time. Kevin's a nice guy. I'm not going to say anything personal about it because I think he's a nice guy. Wouldn't say that about the other guy. Kevin's a really good guy. But again, how about interviewing people from the other side? I love interviewing Republicans. I love it. I love interviewing people that I disagree with. I love it.
Do you know that we invite every single candidate, whether it's Lib, IAP, R, or D, to our endorsement interviews?
I think that's great.
And there are many times that we endorse a D or LAP or Lib or Independent American many times. I remember one time we were doing a survey on who we was voting for, and we probably had 19 Republicans and 18 Democrats that we voted for. And this includes judges too, because we know the political background of a lot of judges.
Steve and I were having a conversation about it, and I was like, oh, crap. I think we're going to lose our Republican card.
I appreciate the fact that you guys do that. I think that's wonderful. And you know what I tell people? I say, the reason why Hillary Clinton lost the election is because she didn't go on Fox News. Okay? Donald Trump should have gone on CNN last year. Okay? Candidates need to go into places that they might be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, you got to get out.
You have to do that, and both sides,
So funny you say that. I remember Ken Wagner, and I was running his last campaign, and he was going, trying to beat Shelley Berkeley for Congress. And I think that was in CD one? Yeah. And he's always at secured borders and Second Amendment rallies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ken, you already got those votes, man. Once
Go
you
out for the people that
go to the
Right.
LBGQI
Exactly.
community, win the hearts and souls of those people. You know,
Exactly.
that's what you got to do.
No question. I'll give you another example. Somebody that you know, Lisa Song Sutton, the former Miss Nevada, who ran for office and lost. She came on my show once. I had a Ocasio-Cortez cutout in back, not to make a political statement, just because it's funny. It's nice. I also had a Mike Lindell cutout. Okay, so let me. They didn't want her in her campaign coming on my show because they thought I was a liberal because I had an Ocasio-Cortez cutout. I said, how stupid are the people in your campaign? You know, it's like, I don't understand people. You know, just don't always go to places that you're comfortable. Go to places where you're going to be asked difficult, hard questions because you might find some votes from people that maybe wouldn't have voted for you in the past. That goes for Republicans and Democrats.
Or at the very least if you're former Assemblyman Harvey Mumford, Democrat.
Yeah.
He was actually my assemblyman now.
Yeah.
And we were talking one day, and I was like, you know, as a Democrat, why are you so friendly to me? Like, you've always been very personable and inviting to me, and we shop at the same grocery store. We've had a lot of conversation. And he goes, well, Jim, because you're one of the good ones. And I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, yeah, you're Republican. You're right of center, but you're always willing to listen and expand your thoughts and minds. And
we're not always going to agree on everything, you know, and that's good. That's fine. Yeah. And I'm always willing to listen to reasonable people, you know, and that's the key term, right? Reasonable. We all need to be reasonable people, right? And we're not going to agree on everything.
I have no respect for cowards.
Yeah.
At all.
So let me
Lisa Sutton is prime example because she heard something from somebody who said something about our group. So then she decided not to show up. After she said that she was going to show up. I have no respect for people like that.
I can't speak to her on that, but I will ask you this question, though. I have to ask you this because I agree with you. What would you call somebody who dodges the military? What would you call that person?
I have lots of names for that person.
Okay, so why would you support somebody like that for president? As someone like yourself who's a hero.
You talking about Donald Trump?
Of course.
Okay. Well, the reason why I supported Donald was because he wasn't a politician. That was one of my main reasons. Mm-hmm. Everybody else was a politician. And I was looking for somebody that's not. Mm-hmm. I was looking for somebody that's business oriented. Sure. I was looking for somebody that I mean, he made what, millions? He said billions.
And I respect that.
He said billions.
But even if he's a coward,
you'll
take it that far. I find that interesting.
Well, you know what? I always said that you should have at least 2 to 4 years in the military before you become president of the United States because you're the commander-in-chief of our armed forces.
I don't disagree.
You should have. That way you know exactly how they...
None of our politicians serve.
But they don't...
Almost none of them.
They don't want a military-minded person to be head of the country because the first thing you're going to say, okay, we need to go to war. But not everybody's like that. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are diplomatic about it.
Actually, to be honest with you, most veterans
don't want to go to war.
Yeah, they're the last ones to want to go to war.
Because they know exactly what happens in war. They don't want to go there.
Yeah. And listen, I understand why that's very reasonable. You know, you're sick of the politicians. You want
sick of the politicians.
And I respect that. And I to an extent, I agree with you. The only reason why I brought up, the coward thing, nobody likes a coward, right? Especially someone who served this country honorably. When I think of Donald Trump, that's one of the words I use to describe him. I believe him to be a coward.
But to be fair to Donald Trump, though, that was during the draft.
Yeah, but I mean, the bone spur thing was a joke. It was a lie.
Clinton dodged it too.
I'm not defending Clinton. Right. I'm not going to defend
talking about Bill.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend Bill Clinton.
Right.
He's a rapist as far as I'm concerned. You'll never hear me say anything nice personally about Bill Clinton. But like you would say about Donald Trump, I think some of Bill Clinton's policies worked. He was able to work across the aisle with Republicans. He left office with a surplus. He's a scumbag, okay? I wouldn't vote for him. He's a scumbag. And yes, I do believe he's a rapist. But with that being said, like some of Trump's policies worked, Clinton's policies worked.
It kind of reminds me of a statement Jesse Jackson said when he was saying this to Bill Clinton in one of those open mic things, saying this to Bill Clinton about Barack Obama. Who's this nigga think he is? Mm-hmm. And this is coming from Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, I mean,
ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not a big Jesse Jackson fan. I'm not a big Al Sharpton fan. I think at times they are race baiters. Never have been. And
They always want the spotlight.
well, I think it's a lot about money and power. Sometimes I agree with them on certain issues. A lot of times I don't. But I think, again, that's an extreme. It's an extreme. And I go back to that all the time.
So you didn't finish telling us what you look for in a candidate. I know you said honesty was a big thing.
Sure. I forgot his last name. Seth. He tried to get Nancy Pelosi's seat, and he's a veteran. His first name is Seth. He ran for president, and I'm drawing a blank now. I can't remember his last name. This is nuts because he came on my show, and I apologize. Seth, what is your last name? Anyway, he tried to get Nancy Pelosi's seat, just like you. He ran for office. I'm sorry, he won medals at war. He served this country honorably. He's a reasonable man. He's a good family man. Just like what you said, I think serving would be a nice prerequisite to being the president. Many of these politicians and their family members do not serve. Some of them do. Most of them do not. So somebody that served, I think, would be a good start. I did say honesty. Somebody who's not extremely wealthy. I think people that are, you could say, well, I want a good businessman in office. Okay. I want someone that knows what it's like living paycheck to paycheck. Okay. Mark Cuban knew what it was like having no money. Now, some people would say he got a little lucky with what he accomplished, but he earned it and nobody gave him anything. I want people in office, Republican or Democrat, that if they are wealthy, I want to know that they were in their life, they know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. We have too many people in power that are extremely wealthy. So that's another thing that I would say.
How are you going to know how the other side live if you haven't experienced it? Right?
Exactly. So I think that's really important. Bernie Sanders is not what I would call poor, but he's not extremely wealthy either. I don't agree with some of his views.
Worth about $3 million.
Yeah, but when you look at most of the politicians in office, they're worth a lot more than that.
Well,
yeah.
And that leads me to the next question I was going to ask you then. I agree with you that we should look for younger people and people that come from moderate income and know what it's like to struggle and then become a politician and gain power.
Right.
But you keep talking about Masta. What about her?
Catherine Cortez you're talking about?
Catherine Cortez.
Well, I was talking about Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, okay.
Two different people.
One is cuter than the other. Just saying.
I think Catherine's a good-looking woman too. But
I was talking about her.
Well, he brought her up.
Right. Yeah.
If you want to talk about Ocasio-Cortez, I certainly have a lot more opinions about her.
Yeah. Before you say something, you got to give her props. She was a bartender.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
She beat out a 9-term seasoned
But Steve,
Democrat.
you have so many Republicans.
Good on her for that, but now she's worth $4 million right after she becomes elected.
How many Republicans have gone after her because she was a bartender? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I respect her. I don't always agree with her. I don't like the Green New Deal stuff. I don't like her opinions on Israel.
No.
But I respect the hell out of her.
She came from.
She came from almost nothing.
Yeah.
She was a bartender, went to a very good university, Boston University, got her degree, made good grades, went door to door, literally, trying to get people to vote for her. And it worked. And she's very outspoken. I think some people have a problem with powerful, attractive women.
I don't.
I don't either.
I encourage it. Bring them.
I encourage it as well. But I don't always agree with her, but I respect the heck out of her. And then I look at somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has done nothing in her life. Her family's extremely wealthy. She's a dope. Comparing Nazi Germany to people wearing masks, saying that Jews are pointing laser beams into forest fire. She's a despicable person. We got to get those despicable people out of office. Ilhan Omar, she doesn't get that far with me. She's not that bad. She said some borderline anti-Semitic ignorant things.
From Somalia.
Yeah. She said some ignorant things. But then you have Boebert, who says that I saw Ilhan Omar walk in an elevator with me and I was happy she didn't have a backpack, trying to compare her to it. I mean, we got to stop this stuff. Yeah. But here's the problem, guys. People say stuff like that. It helps their campaign. It raises money. Right. It's got to stop.
Sensationalism sells, unfortunately.
It's got to stop, man. It's got to stop. The Alex Joneses of the world, right? I mean, this nonsense, it just has to stop. People just need to be reasonable. It's okay to have different opinions. And I don't believe Ocasio-Cortez has ever done that. She's never said something so she could make money. She says it because she believes it. She believes in the Green New Deal. I don't agree with it, but I don't have a problem with her. You know, I don't like Nancy Pelosi. Get her out of office. Too partisan. I don't like Chuck Schumer any more than McCarthy. I think McCarthy is just the worst.
That's why they keep dividing the country. I mean, these people that are still in office after decades of being in office, they're the ones that's dividing the country. Yeah. For example, when we do our endorsement interviews, because I want to get back to that, we don't rubber stamp you because you're a veteran.
Right.
I mean, it's a plus, but we don't rubber stamp you. We look for policy. We look for honesty. We look for capability. We look for knowledge. We look for current events. There's a lot of other stuff we look for, you know, for us to endorse a candidate.
And I think that's important. And it's important to get different views. And I think when you're running for office, you should want to take every opportunity, whether it's here or anywhere else. And I think that's important. Like I said, candidates and these campaign staffers that have no idea what they're doing. Oh no, you don't want to do that show. Oh no, you don't want to do this. That person is way right or way left. It's like, just shut up. What's the worst thing that can happen? Let your candidate answer questions. If they're uncomfortable to the point where they need to leave, then they can leave. But give people an opportunity. Give them a chance, you know.
It's like the one
when
show.
They don't show up, it's their own fault.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right. I'm not going to mention the show because I don't want to give it any publicity. But let's just put it this way. The host and the co-host, very far left. They asked me. Yeah. They asked me to come on.
A radio show in Vegas that is far left?
Yeah.
What show is this?
Is it still on the air?
Well, actually, it's a video and internet.
Okay, I wouldn't know it then.
Yeah.
I don't know of really any shows that are left in this town.
It's called WTF.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know. But like on actual radio, I've never heard of. Name me one show.
That's a piece of crap show anyway.
I know. But let me get back to my point, though. I knew when walking in that those two were not going to agree with me because they see me, even though I don't believe I am this way. Obviously, Harvey Mumford said it perfectly. I'm willing to listen to anybody. But I knew they were going to come after me and attack me for being a Republican. But I was still okay with going on the show. And here's what my opening statement was. You can be the biggest Democrat on earth. I can be the biggest Republican on earth. If we just put those two things aside, just put party aside, and just talk about common sense life issues, guaranteed most people will agree on 80% of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think anybody that is a moderate or reasonable person, I get along with those people, and we have good conversations. There's certain things you're not going to agree with, and that's fine. But
that's the 20%. Let's not focus on the 20% we disagree with. Let's focus on the 80% that we agree on, that we can work together to get stuff done for the country.
Well, what you're talking to, we could talk about guns. 90% of people in this country, Republican and Democrat, agree that we should have comprehensive background checks everywhere. 90%. Yet nothing gets done in office. Why? Because you have a few people that are in the back pocket of the NRA. You have the Jim Jordans of the world, the Rubios of the world, the Ted Cruzes of the world. All it takes is several people. The reason why things don't get done. I mean, look at what Joe Manchin just did. All it takes is one person. So I agree with you. 80% of the country is more centralized and middle. I think probably like we are. Yeah. But all it takes is a few people, or in this case, one person, for a bill not to go through. And that needs to change too. I have a real problem with that. One person in this country should not have the power to put a bill, not able to put a bill forward that both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on in this country. Right. I have a big problem with that. But going back to your point, if I had a bunch of QAnoners that wanted me on their show, I would love to embarrass them and come on their show. I would love to do that. You know,
a way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, fine.
And I want to piggyback on what Jim was saying.
Yeah,
it just takes look at our legislators in the Assembly and Senate. If your name is on a bill, sponsoring a bill, and they don't like you, they kill it in committee. Right. It could be the piece of legislation that's going to make Nevada a better place, but they don't care. Mm-hmm. I always sum up the legislation as a a college fraternity.
Yeah.
If you're not with the cool kids, your bills don't get passed, which is sad.
Yep.
And you should not be an elected lawmaker with that type of mindset.
What the mindset they should have is, and they forget this a lot, is that they work for us.
Yeah.
We pay taxes and pay their salary. They work for us, but they forget about that, and they're out for themselves. Many of these politicians, notice how I didn't say Republican or Democrat, many of these politicians, many, not all, are simply out for themselves. They want to remain in power, they want to provide for their family, and they just want to stay there, and they will do whatever it takes to remain in power. You could be Ted Cruz, and even though Donald Trump mocked the looks of your wife and said that one of your family members killed John Kennedy, he still has brown-nosed Trump for the last 4 years. Why? Because, using one of your terms, he's a coward. And instead of truly defending his wife,
which he should have.
Which he really didn't. I mean, he called Trump a coward one day, and then, a month later, they're best friends. I mean, come on.
Defend your kin.
Yeah, that's one thing in politics that should never happen.
Well, see, and that's the thing, though. Like, we gotta stop blaming politicians for being politicians and start blaming ourselves, because we're the ones that are allowing this to happen. We're the reason why there are corrupt people in political office. Because people don't do their research. They don't pay attention to the stuff I and Steve pay attention to. A lot of voters, unfortunately, will just go, oh, well, my parents were both Democrats, so I'm a Democrat.
You might disagree with me on this, but I think that in order to vote in this country, there should be some sort of IQ test. And I know people are probably going to disagree with me on that. People are so stupid, they'll vote for Donald Trump because of his skin color. They'll vote for Joe Biden because I don't know, whatever. They like the way he dresses. People will vote for people for the dumbest of reasons. And you could also make the argument, well, that's the freedom in this country. People have a right to vote the way they want to. And yes, they're right, but it's like, come on, man. I mean, I just think that people need to be, if you're going to vote, then at least understand the policies of the person that you're voting for. And I think at least half the people in this country don't do that. They really don't even know who they're voting for.
And you know what? They'll use something that you did 30 years ago and act as that's a defense why you shouldn't get elected.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. It's sad and it's unfortunate.
But not the stuff that you've done since then. They'll concentrate on this bad thing you did 30 years ago and really, really kick that in. But they're just discount any other thing you did prior to that. I mean,
it's sad. It's sad. And, I don't know where this country is going right now. And I think we're more divided in this country than since I've been alive. I've been here for 41 years. And I think we're more divided racially now than we've been in my lifetime. I think we're more divided politically now. We're divided on so many issues, even the most basic of issues. I never thought Roe versus Wade was going to be overturned, but when you see what they're trying to do in Texas now, it's crazy, man. I think, why can't we be reasonable? Why can't, even when it comes to abortion, why can't we be reasonable? I don't want to tell you what to do with your body. If you don't want to have an abortion, then don't have an abortion. I don't want late-term abortions. You should have to make a decision within 6 or 7 months. But how can you justify, this is what I mean when I talk about alt-right, how can you justify a young girl being raped, God forbid, and tell her family that she has to be forced to have that child? Yeah. Where are we as a society now? Reasonable Republicans...
just give it away. Let somebody adopt. Like you don't have that psychological mindset. Like, where's my kid?
Reasonable Republicans agree with us, okay? Agree with me on this. What is Governor Abbott doing? What are you doing? And then he says what? After, was it 6 weeks? After 6 weeks, you can't have an abortion. Most women don't even know they're pregnant after 6 weeks. No. This guy doesn't even understand the female anatomy. I mean, if I don't.
Brian, we could talk for hours.
We could. We could, yeah.
But I just want to make sure that that you covered everything you'd want to cover.
The only thing I didn't say is, Donald Trump is just a great guy. I think everybody should vote for him. He's my hero. He's the next Messiah. Vote for Donald Trump. He's just such a wonderful human being. We didn't really cover that, so I just wanted to.
Jim, you have anything else?
No, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, Brian, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure.
I appreciate the conversation, And I really enjoy the fact that you educate yourself, you know?
Some would argue that, but yes, I'd like to think I do.
Yeah. But yeah, it's obvious just listening to you and your knowledge and correcting me on, you know, some of the stuff that I said as far as names. It's obvious you know what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if it's correcting. You know, a lot of it, some of it is certainly opinions.
There are certain things I disagree with you on, but I agree with you.
That's the beautiful thing about this country.
Plus,
let me ask you
again.
The flag in public, I don't get.
Oh, that's. I would never want anybody to do that. That's for sure. That's terrible. Well, I'm curious though. What is like the biggest thing that you disagree with me on?
Well, I just the whole COVID vaccine. I just. If you want to take it, take it. And I'm sorry you had to deal with that. And I'm glad you're feeling better now. And I do know people that have had it. I know someone now that has 50% less lung function the rest of her life because of it.
Because of COVID,
yeah. I just don't think that government should have the right to tell somebody they have to do something.
And you know what? You
just kind of like same reason why
hold on a second, because he just said that dealing with abortion. Why should the government tell you what to do with your body? You just said it. You just said it.
How is the government forcing you to get a vaccination?
Well, they're basically saying right now that the mask mandate will not go away until you get vaccinated.
They got rid of 3,600
Okay, so that's saying you have to, that's a consequence to not getting vaccinated, but that's not saying, you said that the government is forcing you to, that's not true.
They got rid of 3,600 soldiers and 103 Marines
because
they didn't want to be vaccinated.
But
that's forcing.
Okay, well.
That's forcing.
I'm not a Marine.
That's forcing.
Well, okay, so, but going back to what you said, there are private businesses that many of them are saying you have to be vaccinated to work here.
Right.
What one would argue is, well, then don't work for that business.
Right.
So while there are mask mandates put in place, which, by the way, I completely 100% support, even though it's annoying, I don't think the government is forcing everybody to get vaccinated. But well, I mean, there's a lot of people in society that are not vaccinated. So if they're forcing it, they're not doing a very good job of it.
Okay, so let's put it this way: not forcing, but what they're doing, it's almost like peer pressure.
Well, yeah,
and all the commercials that are going.
See,
on
to me,
and on.
When I was in high school and somebody was trying to get me to drink a beer or smoke weed, that was peer pressure. Yeah. To me, when Joe Biden says get the vaccine, and when we have infectious disease experts that are saying why, to me that's not peer pressure. That's information from medical experts that are trying to save your life. If you don't want to get vaccinated, I don't think you should be forced to get vaccinated. I'm very clear on that. However, with that being said, I think you should. Right. And I'm not putting peer pressure on somebody. I'm just giving people facts. Fact of the matter is, again, we've been through this, but you know, if you get vaccinated, you're much less likely to be sick, to be put in the hospital, and to die. You're also 12 times more likely to create new variants. These are medical information. You can just look it up online. You're 12 times more likely to create a new variant if you're unvaccinated than if you're vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you can still get sick and you can still get other people sick. So, you know.
I got vaccinated because I don't want to wear the mask anymore.
Yeah,
I got to wear a mask.
Like the flu
well, I agree with you on that. Steve, we agree on that.
I got the 2-shot.
I think we need to be reasonable. And this is when I talk about reasonable on both sides. I agree with you. I'm glad you got vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. We shouldn't have to wear a mask. I'm very annoyed by that, okay? Yeah. I'm annoyed by that. I'm annoyed by the fact we can go on an airplane and have to put a mask on, but the second we're hungry and eat peanuts, we can take our mask off. Okay? There are things that are not reasonable right now. Okay, I'm with you.
It's funny, Steve and I bring that up all the time.
It's true. I'm trying to be fair here.
COVID is a very intelligent disease, I'll tell you.
All I know is it doesn't discriminate against people. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. And a lot of these people that are on the air that were anti-vaccine, some of them are dead now. I'd like you to get vaccinated. Can't force you to get vaccinated. Right. But I think you should. I don't want you to get sick. I don't want you to die. But here's the thing that I always try to tell people. And I'm not saying you're like this, but I'm saying in general, they say, well, I don't want to do this. I'm me, I, me. And I say, okay, it's not just about you though. It's about all of us. It's about everybody, right? Yeah. I compare the anti-maskers and the people that refuse to I compare them to drunk drivers. When you get into a car and you drive drunk, you're not only putting yourself at risk, you're putting everybody else at risk. When you intentionally don't social distance, don't wear a mask, don't think the virus is real, pretend like it's not there, you are playing Russian roulette with society. If it only affected you and it couldn't affect other people, do whatever the hell you want. I wouldn't say a word. I can't force you to do anything. All I can say is the vaccines, for the most part, are very safe. I do think everybody should get it. I think it's important. Just like you. I hate masks. I hate this crap. I just went to Honolulu. I had to show my vaccination card everywhere. It's annoying. But I would rather everybody be annoyed. It's kind of like a DUI checkpoint, right? We don't like it, right? We don't like it. Do we like being stopped by police officers and them asking us questions? No. It's annoying, right? But you know what I say, though? But Steve, you know what I say? I answer their questions. I'll say, appreciate what you guys are doing. What you're doing out here today is probably going to save a life. I appreciate that. And I say the same thing to people who get vaccinated. I know you probably didn't want to do it. I know you don't like wearing a mask. Neither do I. But I appreciate what you're doing because you know what? You're probably saving a life, if not yours, somebody else's. So that's all I can say. I can't, I'm not,
All right, Brian.
All right, man.
Look, I need to look in the camera and
Yes, sir.
Your final words, your point of contact. You can talk about your show, what channel's coming on and all that good stuff. And Mark's going to zoom in on you.
Oh boy, that's really scary. You're going to zoom in on. Oh my God. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate what Veterans in Politics does. And
thank you.
I was honored that I was able to host your event a few years ago, and I'll be able to do it again at South Point in February. It's raising money for veterans. Don't care what political affiliations are. It's about raising money for veterans. So I'm honored to do that, and I appreciate it. And if anybody wants to follow me on social media, particularly Facebook, I'm the pasty white guy that wears these weird, stupid hats. Brian Shapiro is the name. You can email me also, Brian, Brian, @thevegastake.com. I'm going to have some big announcements coming up here in the next couple weeks after the holidays about a new show that I'm going to be airing. It's going to be great. Can't wait for it. The website's thevegastake.com. I gave you my email, and I appreciate people hearing all sorts of different perspectives. And you guys add me on Facebook. I'll add anybody. There's so many people on there that I don't know that I add anyway because I don't care. So. And some crazy people, a few blocks on occasion. But anyway, yeah, it happens from time to time. But anyway, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Sure.
Jim?
No, thanks for coming on.
Sure.
Appreciate the conversation. I just want all the viewers and listeners to understand that conversations like this, where we don't agree on 100% of everything, that's okay. That's what America is all about. And we need to come together.
I think we agree more than we disagree.
Oh, we definitely agree more than we disagree.
Yep.
Yeah.
And folks, I just want to remind you about the Valentine's Day Ball. It's February 19th, which is a Saturday at 5 to 6. It's cocktail hours, 6 to 11. It's dinner, dancing, raffles, and a whole bunch of announcements. We encourage everybody to show up and have fun. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite, or you can get your tickets on veteransinpolitics.org. Brian Shapiro is our master of ceremony. He did a great job 2 years ago, and he's going to do a great job again. We're looking forward to it, see more candidates. And folks, it's not just for military, it's for everybody. Anybody and everybody that wants to show up. And if you can't afford to buy your tickets, maybe somebody will donate. And usually a lot of people that buy tickets donate them to veterans. And when that happens, we'll invite veterans to come down and be a part of the event. That's Brian Shapiro, host of Take Back.
The Vegas Take.
The Vegas Take. Oh man,
good to know you're
having the back in there.
Good to know you're such a fan.
I keep having back.
That's okay.
Vegas Take Back. The Vegas Take. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas with Veterans of Politics. Until next time.